There are new questions today about whether one of the biggest fears for the president's health care plan appears to be coming true. The popular clothing store Forever 21 announcing plans to cut the hours of some full-time employees and reclassify them, you guessed it, as part-time. The chain runs 355 stores nationwide, so this is going to affect a lot of people. Other companies have talked about cutting away hours as a way to avoid paying additional insurance costs. Michelle Malkin is a columnist and Fox News contributor, joins us live. Michelle, good to see you today.
You too, Shannon.
All right, this is interesting because in some of the reporting I've seen about this Forever 21, they go out and do the man on the street interviews, the local news crews, and people are upset. They say this is terrible, but they're not blaming President Obama or the health care law. They're mad at Forever 21.
Yeah, I think this shows a real need for some education and economics 101. And it behooves the Republican Party and limited government conservatives in particular to go out there and evangelize and to connect the dots for a lot of young people. Forever 21 is a hugely popular clothing store. It doesn't just cater to a young crowd, of course. It employs a lot of young people, and many of them are going to be hard hit by this. The memo that was leaked by an anti-free market group, but I think what should happen is that a lot of us on the right need to explain that this is entirely logical. This is entirely predictable that this would happen. That if you have a top-down government mandate that forces private companies like Forever 21 to abide by their own one-size-fits-all regulatory solution to health insurance, of course they're going to respond to these perverse incentives. And so what happened is that the mandate requires a forcing of adopting all of these health care costs if you employ people for more than 30 hours. So they shaved the hours to below, just a fraction below, to 29.5, and now they're dropping medical, dental, vision, all sorts of benefits that they used to offer because they're not going to be able to offer low-cost clothing if they have to take on these added costs that they did not choose to take on themselves.
Well, and my understanding is that the explanation that went to employees didn't explicitly single out the health care law as the reason for doing this, but they say that the company's recently audited its staffing levels, staffing needs, and payroll in conjunction with reviewing its overall operating budget.
Yeah,
what does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that the intimidation campaign of this White House has worked rather effectively, because you'll recall that from the minute that Obamacare was put into place, you had HHS and Kathleen Sebelius using the power of government to threaten any private company that dared to voice any concern about the costs and what the consequences and impact it would be, not only on the way they operate their business, but on the way that they offer benefits to their full-time employees. And so we saw Darden restaurants and Papa John's and all sorts of restaurants, Olive Garden, for example, and a number of companies, in addition to companies like Caterpillar and AT&T and Verizon, that had the audacity to talk about the connection between Obamacare and cutting benefits and cutting full-time employees to part-time. And what did the government do? Punish them, along with a lot of these left-wing campaigns that demonized them, called them greedy, and in some cases accused them of racism for acting rationally to these kinds of incentives and regulatory burdens. Yeah, so of course a company is going to deny that it has anything to do with Obamacare.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that along with the ones you mentioned, there are also Subway, Regal Entertainment Group, the movie group. At what point is there enough, volume that the average person out there, whether they're informed inside, outside the Beltway, they care about the law, they don't care about the law, before they start to draw their own conclusions?
Well, I think they're starting to. And at the beginning of this year, you had a lot of young people on Twitter, and we actually noticed this on Twitchy, talking about how their paychecks were getting smaller, their hours were being cut back, and they were starting to draw the connection between massive government mandates that were backfiring and what was happening in their own bank accounts, in their own workplaces, and in their own pocketbooks. And I understand that there's a huge push now on the part of the Republican Party to defund Obamacare. But there also has to be, in concert with that, more of an educational campaign to help these young people see that there are dire consequences to big government intrusions that don't do and don't promise and don't deliver what they say they're going to do. And this is why I think that examples like this with Forever 21 are teachable moments for erstwhile Obama supporters, especially among young people.
All right, we'll see if they get the message. We report, they decide. Michelle, thank you very much.
You bet. Take care.